Hey guys, this is Richard, your host, with another marvelous video. Hank McCoy, aka Beast, is clearly one of the most important X-Men ever. Not only does he have the brawns to beat big guys into a pulp, but he also has a brain that's counted in the list of smartest brains in the Marvel Universe. But this guy's journey has been a roller coaster. From the beacon of hope to a man driven to madness, Beast's story is equal parts thrilling and tragic. So, in this video, we'll explore his entire journey through the comics, movies, and animated shows. Let's begin, shall we? Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. A unique mutant child. Born Henry McCoy, his parents like to call him Hank, which is how the world came to know him as. But of course, nothing beats Beast. An Illinois child from Dunphy, his parents, Norton and Edna McCoy, loved their son. Now, the interesting thing about Hank was that his mutant gene actually surfaced in him because of his father, who was a regular human. You see, Hank's father worked at a nuclear plant, and these things never really bode well in comics. So, Mr. McCoy got exposed to huge levels of radiation, which transformed his genes. When Mr. and Mrs. McCoy decided to have a baby, their love child also got the mutated genes, and Hank was pretty much born a mutant. What I mean is, unlike most mutants whose powers get manifested under extreme tragedy, duress, or emotional turmoil, Hank's mutant gene had been activated at birth itself. The kid had unusually large feet and hands, in addition to the agility of a simian creature. I mean, monkeys, chimps, gorillas, you name it. But physical strength was not his only strength. He was a prodigy in every sense of the term. Joining the X-Men. During his school days, he kept his mutation hidden from the world, and it was important that he did so if he wanted to continue going to school. Later, he joined Bard College and became a star footballer thanks to his mutant powers. Boy, Hank could leap, but it was an unfair advantage that he had and should not have competed against his human friends. But more importantly, he hid his thirst for knowledge. You see, Beast, I suppose, served the X-Men more because of his brains than his brawns. Unfortunately, though, his reality came forward and it led to Hank's expulsion from school. However, the expulsion was actually a blessing in disguise because Professor X, aka Charles Xavier, took note of Hank's abilities and brought him in. At Xavier's school for gifted youngsters, Hank could quench his thirst for unlimited academic opportunities and knowledge, and Hank could not be more grateful to the professor. But Professor X was not the only one who was interested in Hank's abilities and knowledge. There was this costumed criminal named El Conquistador who wanted to use Hank for his own nefarious purpose. To further his plans, El Conquistador abducted Hank's parents as leverage and asked Hank to do his bidding. But the professor and his X-Men came to the rescue of Mr. and Mrs. McCoy. From then on, Hank became a full-time member of the X-Men and took up the codename Beast. Meeting his future self from a different timeline. Life is never not exciting for these guys, right? So, Beast was visited by a future version of himself who informed Beast that things were not good in that timeline. Cyclops had become Rogue. Oh wait, no, we already have a character named Rogue. Anyway, he'd gone rogue and killed the professor from that timeline. Also, Jean Grey was dead, and surprisingly, the school in this future was named after Jean and not the professor. On top of all this, Beast himself was dying because of a secondary mutation that he was undergoing. Clearly, all this was too much for the real Beast, and he decided it was time to help his future version. Of course, the X-Men traveled to the future where they took on this evil Cyclops, while Hank himself made it his immediate mission to save the future Beast. He teamed up with Jean and Kitty Pryde. Oh, and just a side note, Jean's powers had only recently surfaced. The three of them managed to stabilize the future Beast's condition, thereby saving his life. However, the problems in this timeline had not been solved yet, so under Jean's leadership, they all decided to stay back until such problems were fixed. Additionally, there were several different X-Men teams that Beast witnessed during his time in the future. Firstly, because of a conflict between the future versions of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants and the future versions of the X-Men, like Wolverine's X-Men, Kitty decided to leave Wolverine's school in order to join Cyclops' X-Men, along with a few other younger mutants. I'm mentioning this because it'll have an implication later in the video. Anyway, Beast and the others soon had to go underground because a new mutant hysteria and paranoia had surfaced in this timeline. To add insult to injury, an mpox outbreak threatened all mutants. Beast went on a road trip with two of his mutant colleagues, Hoya and Genesis, so that he could catch up with his other teammates. Beast intended to join these guys so that he could travel further with more company to help people and mutants across the world who needed help. Did I say across the world? Oh yeah, Beast could do that because he had the help of a teleporting BAMF named Pickles. Who are BAMFs? Well, they're basically cute blue alien elves who look like Nightcrawler, and they have the natural ability to teleport. Time Trouble Pro Max. Anyway, by now, Beast wanted to return to his original timeline with his friends, but was unable to find a way to do so. So, he decided it was a time to dabble in the dark arts and magic. If we talk about magic in the Marvel Universe, one name that has to come up is Doctor Strange. So, the Sorcerer Supreme gave Beast something called the Third Eye of Horus, using which Beast unlocked a way to time travel. Hank began experimenting with the object to find a new way home. However, the Eye of Horus had already been tainted by demonic forces, thanks to the Goblin Queen, aka Madeline Pryor, the clone of Jean Grey created by Mr. Sinister. While the X-Men did their best to fight Pryor's evil forces, Beast unlocked a way to supremely enhance his mystical knowledge and skills. Armed with this newfound ability, he successfully defeated Pryor and her forces, but Hank soon realized that he didn't discover the ability to travel to his own timeline, which was separate from the timeline he was presently in. What he had discovered was merely the ability to travel up and down time in this future timeline. Now, what happened was they'd left a void because of their time displacement, and the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants took advantage of this to pose as the young heroes. The X-Men knew that they had to find a way to get back to the exact moment they left in order to stop the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants from carrying out their plans. To make things worse, a time-traveling mutant hunter named Ahab started to go after our time-displaced heroes. But someone came to their rescue, someone who had a knack for time travel since he was a child. Well, yes, Cable, the son of Cyclops and Madeline Pryor, started sending the X-Men to the past, as in their original timeline. Phew. Fighting, dating, and more. Under Professor X, Hank was living his favorite life. When he wasn't battling the likes of Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, Namor, Magneto, etc., he was immersing himself in Proust and differential equations. For a brief period, he became extremely discouraged with humanity and decided to make a career in wrestling. But that didn't last long, and he found his path once again. He met Bobby Drake, aka Iceman, and even dated a human librarian named Vera Cantor. Once, when Bobby and Beast were on a double date, they fought Maha Yogi. Not long after, Hank was abducted by Kraven the Hunter, who wanted to best the Beast. But Kraven gave him a chemical to dull his senses and reflexes, but this chemical actually dulled Hank's mind, turning him into a more regressive version of himself. Beast went into a berserker rage and would have killed Kraven had it not been for others who separated the two. Grey Beast. Hank McCoy had always been a smart man, and he soon finished his doctoral studies. Once that happened, he left the school and the X-Men to join the Brand Corporation as a genetic researcher. Here, he was working under Dr. Carl Maddox, and even developed a romantic relationship with another colleague named Linda Donaldson. While working here, Hank successfully isolated the very hormone that led to the mutation in a human, creating the X gene and turning them into a mutant with superhuman abilities. Now, the serum that he created using this hormonal extract could actually activate latent mutations for a limited time. It also paved the way for the mutant growth hormone. Someone give this man, mutant, a Nobel in medicine. Anyway, with great success comes great jealousy. So, like any self-respecting senior, Dr. Maddox got envious of his junior, aka Hank's success and new discovery. Hank was excited about telling his seniors about what he'd discovered, but he soon learned that Maddox was planning to steal Hank's hard work. In order to save his research from falling into undeserving hands, he drank the serum, but he cared little about the consequences. Well, Mr. McCoy, you should have. As soon as the serum entered his body, Hank underwent super rapid physical changes, kinda like a werewolf doing its thing on a full moon night. So, grey fur covered his body, his muscles grew immensely, he developed pointy and larger ears, his canine teeth became so large that they started looking like fangs, and he even developed claws. Of course, his speed, strength, stamina, and agility increased exponentially, but more importantly, he also developed a healing factor that could rival Wolverine. So, in his grey beast form, Hank first stopped the security guard working for Maddox. Now, Hank was supposed to take an antidote 1 hour from consuming the serum, but he lost the track of time and realized that his state as the Beast had become rather permanent. So, stuck in the Beast form, Hank was filled with rage and wanted to exact his revenge on Maddox. Hank almost killed him, but stopped. In fact, Maddox was killed by Linda Donaldson, who was actually a spy serving the Secret Empire. In order to hide his secret from the people working at Brand Corporation, Hank started wearing a pair of synthetic gloves and a synthetic mask. However, Robert Baxter, aka Buzz, always doubted that there was something wrong with Dr. Hank McCoy. Needless to say, Hank wanted to ditch his beast form, so he was almost always working to fix his condition. Interestingly, he chose not to accept any help from Marvel Girl or Professor X. But when Tony Stark, aka Iron Man, showed interest in the work that Hank was doing, things panned out differently. You see, this mutant called Mastermind from the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants was after Hank, and he planted a memory in our hero's mind that he killed Iron Man. However, the plan failed when Hank managed to remember the truth. Blue Beast. Next, Beast encountered Quasimodo, a sentient computer designed to kill the Fantastic Four. Silver Surfer gave Quasimodo a horrendously disfigured body to match its ugly psyche, and since then, Quasimodo wanted to look more human. In a bid to do so, it tried to steal Beast's metabolic abilities, which left the mutant almost without any healing factor. Additionally, Beast's fur turned blue from grey. Now, after the battle with Quasimodo, our guy was recovering, and he found himself at the home of the same head of security of Brand Corporation, Buzz, and his wife, Patsy Walker. It was to Patsy that Hank revealed his secret to, since she was a great admirer of superheroes. In fact, she agreed to help him and keep his secret in exchange for his help in becoming a superhero. Not long after, Professor X learned that an old colleague named Professor Hans Jorgensen had been kidnapped. The professor believed that Spider-Man might be able to help with the abduction, so he summoned the X-Men to track down the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. However, Hank refused to join in. In fact, Hank himself was mostly missing. When Angel heard about this, he came to his aid and helped him concoct stories to explain why Hank was missing. In fact, Angel also helped him fight Griffin. You see, Hank was still not over his appearance. He hadn't yet embraced his true identity and form. Not knowing what to do and where to go, he returned home for a short time because of Cyclops, but chose to leave once more. Eventually, he met his former girlfriend, Vera. Yep, the shy librarian. You see, it was actually Vera who wanted to meet Beast because her friend Calvin Rankin, aka Mimic, was losing control of his powers and was killing all superpowered people and humans around him. She knew that Hank was a pioneer in biophysics, and only he could help Mimic. Please note that although Mimic knew about Hank's secret, he didn't tell Vera about it. Hank and Vera also ran into Juggernaut once, who almost killed Hank, but Hank prevailed after removing his mask, which scared the crap out of Juggernaut. Well, this was because of the mystics that bonded him to her. Anyway, Hank and Vera finally reached Canada, where Mimic was isolating himself in order to stop himself from hurting others. Hank tried to help Mimic with his ailment, but got interrupted by Hulk, who was looking for the reason behind the draining of his powers. In an act of sacrifice, Mimic drained almost all of his gamma radiation, which seemed like a suicide. Hulk left, and even Vera and Hank parted ways. So by now, Hank had turned blue and didn't manage to find a cure. As a member of the Earth's mightiest. Eventually, Hank left his job at Brand Corporation for bigger ambitions. He wanted to join the Avengers, came in for an interview. During the course of this interview, the evil mutant named Toad attacked the Avengers, and Hank came to the rescue of the Earth's mightiest along with Moondragon. Once the dust settled, Moondragon and Beast were accepted into the superhero team, but they were kept on probation. Also, remember our superhero-obsessed friend, Patsy? Well, she returned to have her promise fulfilled, that of becoming a superhero. Beast and the Avengers go to Brand Corporation, but unfortunately, they're defeated by Squadron Supreme, which may sound like a version of Doctor Strange, like Strange Supreme, but it was actually a group of heroes from Earth 712. Furthermore, Buzz Baxter, Patsy's husband, imprisons the heroes, but they manage to escape. In fact, Patsy finds a costume of a superhero named the Cat, which Patsy took and became Hellcat, which is how Hank kinda fulfilled the promise he made to Patsy. The Avengers then travel to Earth 712, only to learn that US President Rockefeller was actually under the influence of the Serpent Crown, an ancient artifact that was related to the serpent god, Set. However, Hank impersonated President Rockefeller and convinced the Squadron Supreme to allow them to escape. Interestingly, the next president-elect on Earth 712 was Nighthawk's alter ego, Kyle Richmond. But this wasn't the only adventure that Hank went on as a part of the Avengers. Eventually, he was accepted into the team as a permanent member, after which he made his identity public. Another good thing that came out of this, he became a ladies' man. Anyway, soon, Polaris contacted Hank, telling him that she, along with Havoc, had been abducted by the living pharaoh. He came to the X-Mansion only to find it deserted. Eventually, he found his friends working in a circus. Yeah, you heard that right. So, what happened was Mesmero enthralled them and they were acting as his puppets. As soon as he broke his friends free of Mesmero's influence, Magneto crashed the party and took them with him to Antarctica. Dude has got a chill, really. Anyway, after battling the Master of Magnetism, the X-Men got divided into a couple of teams, and each of them thought that the other one was dead. He returned to the Avengers but learned that Henry Gyrick had ordered the Avengers be limited to a team of 7 members, which caused Wonder Man to leave the team, a decision that was later overturned. Hank and Wonder Man also went to the Thing's first superhero poker game. Yeah, it was a thing. Hank also joined the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man to fight Killer Strike and Modular Man. While he was still an Avenger, Hank picked up activity at his old home. He returned to check what's up and found that the team members he thought had perished were actually alive. Eventually, he learned that the X-Men were under attack by the Hellfire Club. Naturally, he raced against time to aid them. By now, Phoenix had undergone a deadly transformation to become the Dark Phoenix and ended up devouring an entire star and a population of 5 billion innocent denizens of a planet in that star system. When Phoenix returned to Earth, she threatened to destroy the planet, killing everyone in it. The planet that Phoenix had devoured belonged to the Shi'ar Empire, a galaxy-wide empire whose queen later married Professor X. Anyway, the X-Men were taken by the Shi'ar people to their capital planet called the Chandilar. Princess Majestrix Lilandra Neramani, aka Mrs. Xavier, wanted to end the menace of Phoenix. But before she could be taken down, Phoenix committed suicide, knowing that she'd cause more deaths if she'd continue to exist. One more adventure later, Hank decided it was time to quit the Avengers and took a leave of absence. As a Defender, Hank, worried about Vera, teamed up with Doctor Strange and the Defenders to take down Ian Fate, a rogue sorcerer. Doctor Strange got Reed Richards on board, and they figured out that they had to put the Resurrection Stone back together. Inside the stone, they got turned into crystal statues by the Giver of Life. They were stuck until Damon Hellstrom showed up and freed them. Hellstrom joined forces with them, and Beast agreed to his help, leading to Vera's revival. After rocking it with the Avengers, Beast decided to shake things up with the Defenders, turning them into a legit fighting team. He brought in his X-Men buddies, Angel and Iceman, to join the ride. Warren Worthington III, aka Angel, funded the team and hooked them up with a cool penthouse in Colorado for their HQ. With Nick Fury's help, they even got the government's thumbs up. Beast and Dazzler's tale was Marvel's version of Beauty and the Beast. Taking a break from the Defenders, Beast arrived in Hollywood to hang with Wonder Man. At a party, he spotted Dazzler, a famous mutant singer battling media hate and under the thumb of Alexander Flynn and Hugo Longride, who kept her drugged to control her at the Underground Theater. Something felt off to Beast, so he tried to connect with her through her co-worker Max Rocker, but reached a dead end. When Dazzler vanished, Beast got information from Rocker and found her at the Heartbreak Hotel, a safe spot for mutant kids on the run. Dazzler was struggling with her powers, but Beast helped her regain her strength. As time passed, they started falling for each other. Beast's good times with Dazzler came to an end when Flynn coaxed her back to the Underground Theater. Ignoring Beast's caution, she ended up in a deadly mutant gladiator fight for human entertainment. Beast tried to save her, but she chose to stay with the other gladiators. Their relationship hit rough waters due to her risky life, but held on. Beast dug deeper, finding out Dazzler was drugged to mess with her powers and mind. Soon, Flynn's crew caught Beast, brainwashing him to fight Dazzler in the arena. Their love won out, but Flynn grabbed the chance to take over and capture them both. The gladiators, fearing Flynn's mad power grab, teamed up with the Heartbreak Hotel kids to free Beast and Dazzler. Together, they defeated Flynn, freeing the gladiators. Beast and Dazzler, now free, found peace back at the Heartbreak Hotel, leaving the dark days of the arena behind. In the X Factor, when Moondragon, under the Dragon of the Moon's influence, wiped out most Defenders, the team fell apart. Hank, missing out on a gig at Harvard, heard Jean Grey was alive and jumped in with the original X-Men to start X Factor. They played mutant hunters to the public, but were actually helping young mutants master their powers in secret. They also fought as the X-Terminators, heroes the media noticed. Post-Dazzler's kidnap, aiming to trigger a drug in humans for super abilities, Hank and bounty hunter O.Z. Chase joined hands for a rescue of her and her mom, Barbara London. After a tough call to take down one of her captors, Hank invited Dazzler to join X Factor, but she passed. He then reconnected with his ex, Vera, now a bold political voice for mutant rights. Carl Maddox came back and targeted Beast to create a cure for his son Artie's muteness. In fact, he even turned Beast temporarily back to his more human look with a serum. Hank got involved with Trish Tilby, a news reporter who exposed Warren's mutant financial backing for X Factor, thanks to a tip-off from Mystique. During a fight with Apocalypse's horsemen, Beast got hit by Pestilence. Using his strength made him smarter, but more childlike, even as his strength spiked with every use. Post-Apocalypse beatdown, their sentient ship crashed into their complex, becoming their new home. X Factor went public with their mutant status after heroically stopping a citywide fire disaster, which also earned them a massive parade. At the parade, big names like the Fantastic Four, Black Panther, and Dr. Doom showed up. Doom and the FF got ambushed by Kristoff's team, which led X Factor to jump in. Despite the skirmish, they didn't side with Doom against Kristoff. Doom then captured Hank and Ms. Marvel before locking them in Reed Richards' lab. Hank and Sharon broke free, and in the chaos, Hank lashed out until the Thing calmed him down. After Doom was let go by T'Challa to stop the beef, Hank returned to X Factor. Hank saw Infexia change a cop with her powers and tried to warn Bobby, who was getting charmed by her but couldn't get through. He saved Bobby from Infexia's deadly kiss, which also reversed his previous conditions, turning him back into his smart, blue, furry self, but stronger. Trish, Hank's girlfriend, struggled with his furry look, but eventually got on board. They often argued about her reporting on X Factor and his openness, a consistent issue in their relationship. After taking down the Shadow King, Beast and the original X Factor crew headed back to the X-Men. coming a full circle to join the X-Men. Back with the X-Men, Beast became the go-to guy for tech and medical issues at Xavier's. He handled alien tech and fighting the legacy virus, all while staying with the X-Men's blue team. In fact, he even led the field operations at one point. When Professor Xavier got hit by Strife's technovirus, Beast and Dr. Moira McTaggart hustled to beat the techno-organic virus in him until Apocalypse came through with a cure. The biggest challenge hit when Strife tricked Mr. Sinister into unleashing the legacy virus. On TV, Hank didn't hold back against mutant-hating political candidate Graydon Creed. In San Francisco, Beast and Bobby visited Infectia, who was losing a battle with the legacy virus. There, they bumped into Threnody, a young mutant who could feel the virus's impact. Thinking outside the box, Hank left her with Sinister, betting on his questionable ethics to find a cure. Beast was there for Infectia's last moments at sunrise. After hitting a wall with the legacy virus, Beast acted on a tip from Sabretooth and led a small X-Men crew to Scott's old orphanage in Nebraska. They found Threnody working on a cure for Sinister. Hank wanted to pull her out, but Threnody chose to stay undercover for the X-Men while keeping Sinister in the dark. Hank wasn't happy, but had to roll with it. Then, Trish revealed that the legacy virus was hitting humans, ramping up tension with Hank. Beast joined Professor Xavier at a press conference in San Francisco, aiming to ease fears about the legacy virus spreading. Dark Beast, Hank's evil twin from another reality, was shocked to find Hank with the X-Men. Going on a research spree and causing chaos, Dark Beast targeted Hank's past connections and even attempted to erase his family. Eventually, he kidnapped Hank to take his place, stashing him in the old Brand Corporation building for backup intel while he masqueraded as Hank among the X-Men and dived into his research, including the legacy virus cure efforts. Hank managed to escape when Dark Beast got caught up with Onslaught. Back with the X-Men, Hank and Trish fixed things up in their relationship. Dr. McTaggart, hit by the virus despite being human, found a cure for a virus strain but passed away after getting the findings to Xavier's. Using her research and his own, Hank finalized the cure but needed a mutant virus sample to make it work. Colossus stepped up, making the ultimate sacrifice for the cure. Amidst this, Beast faced a moral dilemma with a potential vaccine test on himself, hinted by Operation Zero Tolerance, but decided against taking the risky step of infecting himself. Extreme X-Men. Hank joined Storm's Extreme X-Men team for a bit and hunted for Destiny's Diaries. A boost from Sage triggered a secondary mutation in him, which pushed him into a more feline form. After Vargas took out Psylocke, Beast headed back to the Institute. Cassandra Nova. Beast felt lost after his friend's death and his new mutation, worrying he was turning into a mere animal. He dove into his work and helped Xavier upgrade Cerebro into Cerebra. With the school opening wider and Xavier's revealing he's a mutant, Beast ended things with Trish, who feared for her public image. Cassandra Nova hijacked Xavier's body and tricked Student Beak into sending Beast into a deep coma, leaving him fearing his mutation meant he was devolving. But who's Cassandra Nova? So, she was basically a Mumudrai, which was the Shi'ar word for anti-self. While that's kinda self-explanatory, a Mumudrai is basically a being that exists within the astral plane. So Cassandra was basically a dark counterpart of the Professor himself, and was everything that the Professor was not. Charles found out about her evil presence in the womb itself and was forced to kill his twin sister, which caused a miscarriage. Unbeknownst to everyone, Cassandra was actually living as a blob of cells in a sewer's wall. After spending enough time there, she managed to create a new body for herself and set out to seek revenge on her brother. Beast woke up just in time for Jean and Emma to perform a critical psychic operation to save Xavier. Anyway, Beast and Emma grew close, with him piecing her back together after an attack left her in diamond shards. To promote tolerance, Hank told the world he was gay, a move initially aimed to deter Trish Tilby but evolved into a broader message. Finding his groove as a guidance counselor, Beast began to rethink mutant rights, especially during Dr. Rao's mutation cure buzz and post-House of M. Despite contemplating the serum, a spat with Wolverine and Cyclops' plea made him reconsider. Beast then started seeing Sword Agent Abigail Brand. Say what you will, the man does have a way with women. Aftermath of M-Day. After M-Day wiped out most mutant powers, leaving only about 200 mutants standing, Beast was on a mission to undo the damage and save mutants from vanishing. He contacted genius minds like Reed Richards and Tony Stark, but got nowhere. So he went darker and reached out to a lineup of villains: Dr. Doom, MODOK, Spiral, the High Evolutionary, Mojo, Dr. Kavita Rao, Mr. Sinister, Sugarman, Arnim Zola, and Pandemic. Beast shared everything he knew about M-Day and his research for a fix, asking for their help and offering his findings in exchange. Only his evil twin from another universe, Dark Beast, took him up on the offer. Beast arrived, aiming to decode the High Evolutionary's hints by climbing Mount Wundagore. There, he and his team clashed with the Knights of Wundagore. Beast teamed up with Dark Beast for a bit, but split after Dark Beast tested a serum on a non-mutant kid at the Guthrie place. Beast then sought the Scarlet Witch, who, amnesia-struck, suggested he let go of his quest, and so he did. During the Civil War, Beast was with the OG X-Men, helping Bishop free the Trap 198. He also hooked Spider-Man up with a stealthy holographic disguise and joined the initiative. With the birth of the first mutant child, Hope Summers, host M-Day, Beast played a key role in finding her. Amidst a clash involving the Marauders, Purifiers, and X-Men, Abel took the child to the future for safety. The battle left the X-Mansion in ruins, and Professor X was thought to be gone. X-Club. When the X-Men got back together in San Francisco, thanks to Mayor Sadie Sinclair's invite, Beast and Angel initiated a plan to fix the M-Day mess. They formed the X-Club and pulled in Madison Jeffries, Dr. Yuriko Takiguchi, Dr. Nemesis, and Dr. Kavita Rao. The team zipped back to 1906 to track down Dr. Nemesis's folks and untangle Mutation's roots. They ended up scrapping with an early Sentinel model courtesy of the Hellfire Club and accidentally triggered the San Francisco earthquake. Back in their time, they discovered their key DNA findings got stuck under the dreaming Celestial. After Dr. Yuriko Takiguchi passed away naturally, Beast honored him with a speech at his funeral. Cyclops tasked Beast with finding Cable and the Messiah Child in the time stream, also asking for time machines to help a team of X-Men back them up. Beast, not in the loop about X-Force's creation, cautioned Cyclops against any plan to take out Bishop, who turned against them to chase the child in the future. He further objected when Cyclops redirected X-Force from rescuing Boom Boom, Helion, and Surge to chase the Messiah Child instead. Facing Norman Osborn, Beast got taken by Hammer in San Francisco and was used as a guinea pig for the Omega Machine on Alcatraz, where Norman Osborn kept him and Professor X. He faced daily torture until Cyclops had magic and X-Force to bust them out. To dodge Norman Osborn's reach, the X-Men lifted Asteroid M's remnants, creating Utopia, a mutant haven. After settling in, Beast chose to leave the X-Men, feeling Cyclops had crossed lines in mutant defense and troubled by his ordeal under Osborn. During World War Hulks, Reed Richards gathered the brainiest men he knew, including Beast, to check out Bruce Banner's Hulk dilemma. Beast did DNA tests on Banner, but he found 0 mutant cells. Then, the bad guy Brain Trust, the intelligentsia, aimed to nab the planet's top 8 brains, including Hank and T'Challa. Reed and others got grabbed too, but Cho slipped away and Stark was out of the game. Caught and struck with gamma rays, Beast and the others were freed by Banner to fix the cathexis ray generator and aimed to suck the gamma out of the heroes. Hulk back in action, Banner then smashed the intelligentsia's flying base. Death of Nightcrawler. Beast teamed up with his partner, Abigail Brand, at Sword, but ran into trouble with Henry Gyrick and ended up a fugitive. He came back to the X-Men for Nightcrawler's funeral, where he called out Scott Summers for his hardcore ways of mutant protection, linking them to Kurt's death. Despite the clash, Beast stuck around as a medic during Bastion's siege on Hope. Working with Prodigy, Beast laid out whatever he knew about Bastion's time sphere, which threatened Utopia with an army of Nimrods, and played a key role in pinning down Bastion's timeline for Cable's time machine tweaks. After the dust settled, Beast took care of the injured, but decided to leave the team again and shrugged off Namor's jabs of desertion. Then, Beast swung back to the Avengers and lent a hand to Steve Rogers and the Secret Avengers. Their first throwdown was against the revived Fu Manchu and the Shadow Council, the Phoenix 5. Beast picked the Avengers side in the clash with the X-Men and flew off to space with some Avengers to head off the Phoenix Force. But their plan didn't go as was previously expected, and when the Phoenix arrived on the moon, Iron Man's antics split Phoenix into 5 parts, which then powered up Cyclops, Emma Frost, Magic, Namor, and Colossus. These Phoenix 5 became the beacons of goodness as they started reshaping Earth, halting wars, scrapping weapons, and giving out free food, water, and energy. Despite these improvements, the Avengers, including Beast, still saw them as a ticking time bomb and strategized on how to bring them down, wary of their power spiraling out of control. Initially hesitant about fighting the Phoenix-powered X-Men, Beast's stance shifted after seeing Namor's brutal attack on Wakanda, which also pulled Professor X into the Avengers camp. Beast then helped the Avengers rescue teammates from Limbo, where Spider-Man cleverly got Colossus and Magic to take each other down, leaving just Cyclops and Emma Frost with Phoenix powers. As the situation escalated with more destructive actions by the Phoenix duo, the rest of the X-Men joined the Avengers. In the climax, Beast saw Cyclops, his old friend, kill Professor Xavier and transform into the Dark Phoenix. The battle ended when Hope Summers mastered the Phoenix Force and used it to reverse the Scarlet Witch's M-Day curse. So, with this, she basically restored mutant powers worldwide. Joining the Illuminati. Before Professor X passed away, he left a psychic breadcrumb in Beast's mind, leading to a secret room at the mansion. This room revealed Xavier's dealings with the Illuminati and the Mind Stone. This planted the knowledge deep in Beast's mind to resurface after Xavier's death. Beast was meant to take over the Mind Stone's care and join the Illuminati. The Illuminati showed up to bring him into the fold as they worked on piecing together the Infinity Gauntlet. Beast got a crash course on incursions, where alternate universes started crashing into each other, with Earth always at the epicenter. He stood with the Illuminati and tried to stop these cosmic pileups while aiming for peaceful solutions until they were left with no choice but to destroy worlds to save their own. Leaving the X-Men. When Beast faced another mutation, he feared he wouldn't survive. Beast worried that Cyclops' actions could doom mutants. To change Cyclops' course, he fetched the original X-Men from the past and bet their younger selves would sway them. The plan backfired when the young X-Men opted to stay in the present. Thankfully, the younger Beast helped the current Beast adopt to a new ape-like mutation. So, you see how the initial stories of Beast are coming full circle? Anyway, despite his efforts for the X-Men, Beast's fixation on proving Cyclops wrong and guilt over trapping the young X-Men in the future sparked team concern. Led by Storm, they staged an intervention, which Beast took badly. In reality, he was kinda feeling attacked. Even after Cyclops' peaceful rally in DC aimed to heal mutant divides, Beast couldn't own up to his missteps and exited the X-Men. Resurrection. Well, eventually the Illuminati reached what you can call a dead end because they were facing an incursion with a world full of lives. So they chose to stop fighting and face the end with their planet. But Namor wouldn't quit. He broke out the Illuminati's captives and formed the Cabal to keep battling the incursions. Beast, along with the Illuminati, became fugitives once Captain America found out they'd been destroying worlds to save their own. He even sent the Avengers after them. 8 months into this chase, with the final incursion looming, Beast found sanctuary in Nation X, Cyclops' haven for mutants. Despite their rocky past, Cyclops welcomed Beast and gave him a place to stand as the universe teetered on the brink. The Illuminati dodged a SHIELD team led by Captain America and tried to outsmart the Cabal. So they looped in Sunspot and his Avengers for help, and Beast revealed their plans to the former X-Man. As their strategies bore fruit, the Illuminati faced the final incursion head-on. Knowing they couldn't prevent the end of the multiverse, they built a life raft for a select group to survive. Beast was on the transport to the raft when the last two Earths clashed. The ship got caught in the crossfire and exploded, which killed Beast. After the whole Battleworld saga and the multiverse got rebooted, Beast was miraculously brought back to life. Role in the war against the Inhumans. Beast was optimistic that the Mpox problem could be solved one way or another. However, he was rather shocked to discover that a new problem had surfaced in the form of the Terrigen Mist. Its saturation levels in the atmosphere were supposed to reach a level so high that it would have made it impossible for mutants to survive on Earth. Needless to say, a solution was not in sight. As a last course of action, he summoned many mutant leaders and put forth his findings before them and implored them to consider leaving Earth so that mutant life could thrive somewhere else. Additionally, he was of the opinion that the mutant war against the Inhumans would eventually lead to the destruction of all mutants. But the mutant leaders present at this meeting were not interested in his proposals, as they'd already begun their preparations in the war against the Inhumans. Desperate times, desperate measures. Beast decided he should rather contact the Inhumans and try to stop them from escalating the war, but he found himself incapacitated by Storm. Unfortunately for Beast, he was imprisoned as long as the conflict went on. Beast had feared that the mutants, led by the X-Men, would fail in their fight against the Inhumans, but to his surprise, their surprise attack actually turned the tide in favor of the X-Men for the most part of the battle. However, Queen Medusa of the Inhumans realized that the whole conflict was based on a lie that Emma Frost had told about Cyclops' death. Oh yeah, he died not long before the war started. In fact, Emma Frost kinda led the mutants to believe that the Inhumans were responsible. She was branded a traitor, and Beast was released once the war was over. Medusa also used a generator that cleared the Terrigen Mist, thereby saving the mutants. Joining Havoc's and Kitty's X-Men. Banshee, the X-Man, used to be a horseman of death, but once he was resurrected, Beast decided to take care of him and strive to reverse the negative effects that Banshee's psyche and body suffered when he was still a horseman of death. After this, he started teaching at Harvard University. Why? Well, this place had the best labs and facilities that Beast could have access to, which were needed to figure out ways to conduct the research required to help Banshee's condition. Given just how talented Beast was, Havoc tried to recruit Beast in his rather unofficial X-Men. Beast wasn't really really interested, but things have a way of dragging him into trouble. So what happened was that he found himself attacked by the Reavers, and it wasn't before long that one, or the Office of National Emergency, also got involved. If you aren't aware, Reavers were basically cybernetically enhanced cyborg enforcers who served the Hellfire Club. The Reaver attack also led to him being kicked out of his Harvard gig, but more importantly, Havoc's entire team and Hank were deemed wanted fugitives. However, that didn't last long, as Havoc managed to find out that the Office of National Emergencies was actually conducting experiments on mutants, a piece of knowledge that Hank used to clear out everyone's names. Now, as far as the original X-Men was concerned, Kitty Pryde was leading it after the war against the Inhumans. Furthermore, the team was stretched incredibly thin and needed more members, so Kitty reached out to Hank, who was without a job at that point, and agreed to join the X-Men. In a new reality again. So, Nate Gray, the X-Man, was an ultra-powerful mutant, right? But his powers were so immense that they were creating issues. When he found out that his time was near, he used what they call a celestial life seed to save himself. But this seed augmented Nate's powers even further, so much so that he now had the ability to pretty much remake worlds as per his liking. Of course, such godlike powers can't be good for anyone, and the X-Men ended up going against him. He also used his newfound powers to create a pocket reality with a weird rule. You couldn't get intimate, as it had been outlawed. Oh, and everyone was a mutant in this reality. Interestingly, those like Beast who were fighting Nate ended up getting trapped in this new reality. Here, Beast had forgotten his past self as a smart, peaceful, and good mutant. He'd become rather aggressive and feral and was kept in the Danger Room prison complex, along with several other mutant criminals and bad guys. Hank and Bishop fought each other on multiple occasions, but they soon began helping each other out after they started getting flashbacks from their past lives. There's only so much Nate could do to keep the prison and its reality intact. The mutants broke out of the prison to confront Nate and later managed to get restored to their former selves as the head of Krakoa's intelligence service. So, the good thing about comics is that no one ever remains too dead for too long, especially if you're someone like Professor X. Naturally, Professor X came back from the dead in Inferno Volume 2, Issue 3. He, Moira McTaggart, and Magneto revealed their plan to create Krakoa, the mutant homeland, and started working towards achieving this goal. Now that the mutant kind had united, they were able to achieve many great things, including the resurrection of mutants who had died before their time. But it would have been for naught if they again had to live under the control of this government or that government. So they needed to ensure that Krakoa was an independent nation, recognized by the human nations of the world. Now, Beast played a very significant role in getting the said recognition. He went to the United Nations with Emma Frost and Professor X and oversaw the process. Later, he was appointed as the head of Krakoa's intelligence service called the X-Force. Now, one of the first countries to oppose the independent status and sovereignty of Krakoa was Russia. The Russians also sent extremely small sleeper cells called nesting dolls, which also attacked Beast, but he managed to get rid of them with the help of Black Tom. The descent of Dr. Henry McCoy. Hank's new role led him down a dark path as he started to prioritize his nation's security above all. It's safe to say that he became rather obsessed with it and saw nothing apart from his duties, so much so that it ultimately drove him crazy. He messed with Terra Verde's telefloronics, turning it against the country, secretly funded a space station prison with Maverick, and even tampered with Wolverine's resurrection by adding an obedience collar for secret missions, all hidden from X-Force. So yeah, he was running his own brand of spycraft, one that went against everything Krakoa stood for. Wolverine, doubting Hank's ethics, got under his skin. In response, Hank sent Wolverine on a doomed mission, which ended with Logan's capture and auction. Hank then killed Wolverine to bring him back in a primal form as Weapon X. He did so that he could direct Wolverine on solo missions without him poking his nose in Beast's activities. Logan got out with help from Sage and Krakoa, after Maddie Bannister said her dad was held by Hank. Maddie, supposedly attacked by Hank's mosquito, was left with Dr. Cecilia Reyes and Black Tom. Finding Jeffrey, they learned Hank had made threats, but before more could be shared, Hank sniped Jeffrey and ran, with Wolverine on his heels. Wolverine caught and confronted Hank, and this ended with Logan taking him down. Yet, Hank was reborn in a secret lab. In a new body, Beast moved his lab and X-Force HQ off Krakoa and turned it into a mobile fortress. Spotted by a UN submarine, Beast destroyed it and killed everyone on board, then made multiple clones of himself. Contacting X-Force to bid farewell, he claimed all actions were for mutant kind's sake, then focused on making Wolverine clones in his Weapons of X project. Beast and his copies were later beaten. He hid for a while following this setback, but not for long as he struck again and hit X-Force's North Pole base to get his hands on a Krakoan battlesuit. X-Force, in an attempt to curb Beast's plans, unleashed one of his clones to confront him. The clone, seeking redemption, teamed up with Wonder Man to appeal to Beast's better nature. They tracked Beast to an underwater location of California. To ensure a solo confrontation with his clone, Beast removed Wonder Man's air supply and sent him to the surface. Beast revealed his black hole gun and and wanted to secure Araco in a cosmic vault. Unswayed, the clone battled him as the gun activated. Their fight was interrupted by Wolverine, who wanted to take down Beast. The clone, insisting on no deaths, intervened. In the chaos, Beast fled, only to see Wonder Man trying to disable his weapon. In a last act of sacrifice, Beast saved Wonder Man from the gun's lethal shot. So, although he went full crazy, his last act was an act of sacrifice, and I'd like to assume that Henry McCoy redeemed himself in the end.
Hank?
Don't mock me.
Hank, put him down.
Beast's cinematic journey in the X-Men universe. Let's begin with X-Men First Class. Hank McCoy, genius who finished Harvard at 15, was selected by the CIA to research supersonic flight and helped invent the first Cerebro. In 1962, he got a surprise visit from Charles Xavier, Eric Lensher, Moira McTaggart, and Raven Darkholme as they were putting together a secret X-Men team. When Charles accidentally revealed Hank was a mutant, he showed off his unique feat and agility and immediately caught Raven's eye. Hank fell for her fast and even sensed a mutual attraction. He'd been working on a serum to keep his powers but lose his mutations look and thought Raven's shape-shifting DNA might be the missing piece. Asking for her blood, they bonded over their shared desire to fit in and even shared a kiss. With Cerebro, Charles and Eric find more mutants like Havoc, Angel Salvador, Darwin, and Banshee. They're brought to a CIA base, forming Division X. Amidst a celebratory party, Hank and Alex initially clash. Then, Azazel, Riptide, and Shaw attack, killing guards and flipping Angel. Darwin pretends to join Shaw but gets killed when Shaw makes him swallow too much energy. The survivors escape to Xavier's mansion for training. Hank, who had begun to realize his full potential, builds special suits for Alex and Banshee to better manage their powers. Meanwhile, Raven wrestles with hiding her true form, but Eric's encouragement leads her to embrace it. When Hank finishes a serum he hoped would make him appear normal, Raven rejects it. Hank injects himself, briefly seeing normal feet before a violent transformation into a blue, furry, more beast-like form with claws and fangs. His serum backfires, amplifying his mutation. After wrecking his lab in frustration, he leaves suits for the team and joins them, ready in his new form by the Blackbird he designed. Before the Cuban Missile Crisis event, Hank showed up and shared how his serum actually boosted his mutation. Raven comforted him and urged him to embrace his true form. Eric complimented Hank's new look, but Hank, mistaking it for mockery, lashed out before Charles calmed things down. Eric clarified his sincerity, and Havoc dubbed Hank Beast. This was the first time someone called him a beast in the movies. Well, at least chronologically speaking. They flew off in the Blackbird, Beast at the helm. They land amidst chaos caused by Riptide, and the X-Men waste no time springing into action. While Havoc took down Riptide, Magneto went after Shaw, and Beast clashed with Azazel. The fight was fierce until Mystique, disguised as Shaw, tricked Azazel, which gave Beast the chance to knock him out with her aid. After stopping the Cuban Missile Crisis and the Hellfire Club's plan, the team faced a divide. Lensher, convinced humans would never accept mutants, chose to dominate rather than be oppressed. As the Hellfire Club's remnants formed the Brotherhood of Mutants with Lensher, Raven encouraged a disheartened Hank to always take pride in being a mutant before disappearing with them. X-Men Days of Future Past. In 1965, when Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters opened its doors, it's believed Beast got a teaching role there, having helped Xavier build the school and its labs. But as the Vietnam War intensified, the draft pulled many from the school into the military, leading to the school's closure. Whether Beast was drafted remains a mystery. By the 1970s, with the school shut down, Beast stayed at the mansion, aiding a withdrawn Xavier with his estate. During this period, Beast concocted a serum that kept his own mutation in check and miraculously allowed Xavier to walk again.
I do.
X-Men The Last Stand. Before the mutant cure came about, Hank chose to embrace his mutation and was a part of the government as the Secretary of Mutant Affairs. In his office at the Department of Mutant Affairs, Beast, with his blue fur, relaxes by reading a book upside down from the ceiling, which was a pretty cool thing to see in movies. I mean, I grew up with these movies, and it was always super fun to watch the mutants do all kinds of crazy things. When informed his meeting has started, he gracefully lands and heads out. At the meeting, seated next to the president, Hank learns Homeland Security is on Magneto's trail, but only managed to capture Mystique, found sneaking into the FDA. As they watch Mystique being interrogated, Trask mentions she was caught impersonating him. Hank acknowledges Mystique's mimicry skills, but when Trask claims they've secured her, Hank expresses his skepticism about their ability to keep her contained. Hank warns the president that nabbing Mystique will only rile up Magneto, but admits it gives them a strategic edge. The president, against bargaining with mutants on principle, hints at needing Hank for another reason. He shows Hank documents from Worthington Labs about Leech, a mutant who can nullify powers. Stunned, Hank Hank questions its effectiveness, and the president confirms its potential, which underlined the need for Hank's diplomatic touch. Back at the X-Mansion, Storm and Professor X find Hank admiring a painting. The reunion is warm, compliments flying about appearances. Hank mentions his urgent visit and lets him know that it was not about Magneto, but Mystique's capture. That's when Logan walks in, puzzled by Hank's appearance. After a brief exchange where Logan's wit meets Hank's formality, it's clear even Wolverine has made an impression on the Secretary of Mutant Affairs. Beast clarifies that Magneto isn't their biggest issue right now. He reveals a pharmaceutical giant has created a way to block the mutant gene, calling it a cure. This news stuns everyone, and Storm protests the idea of curing something that's not a disease. Xavier calms the room and points out the announcement's timing. In a heated discussion, Storm questions who would want such a cure and doesn't shy away from labeling it as cowardice. Beast counters and asks if avoiding persecution is cowardly. Wolverine suspects government involvement, but Beast firmly denies it and reminds Logan of his long history fighting for mutant rights, predating even Logan's claws. Hank McCoy arrives at Alcatraz's Worthington Labs by helicopter and meets Dr. Kavita Rao. He notes the lab's remote setting, and she points out its security. It houses the cure's mutant source. Hank questions the ethics of using a mutant this way, but Rao assures compliance with his department's guidelines. She mentions the boy, Jimmy, will stay until his DNA is fully mapped for replication, not generation. Curious about Jimmy's abilities, Hank visits him. Meeting Jimmy, also known as Leech, Hank extends a hand, which turns human near Jimmy. Surprised, Hank commends Jimmy's remarkable ability. Once away from Jimmy, Hank's hand reverts to its furry state. At the White House, the president questions if Beast's resignation will change anything. He was basically trying to say that it was not the way to shape policy. Beast counters and tells him that policies, like turning the cure into a weapon, are being decided without his input, branding the convoy incident as indefensible. The president labels it an isolated event and defends the action due to the threat posed by mutants. Beast challenges the president on the dangerous path he's treading. The president acknowledges his concern and questions democracy's fate against powerful mutants. Beast shares the concern, but insists it amplifies the need for him to be where he truly belongs. With that, Beast exits the president's office, having stepped down from his government role. At the X-Mansion, Aurora Monroe, aka Storm, honors Charles Xavier with a memorial while speaking to a gathering of his students and friends, including Rogue, Iceman, Shadowcat, Colossus, Beast, and others. She speaks of a world filled with fear and division, a world Xavier aimed to heal but never saw reconcile. Logan, ever the outsider, listens from a distance. Aurora praises Charles as a leader, teacher, and friend who provided strength and family to those in need, and emphasizes that his teachings and vision for a united world survive through his students. As Logan walks away, the assembly rises, and one person places a flower on Xavier's memorial. The day after Xavier's memorial, Wolverine, Storm, Beast, Iceman, and Shadowcat meet to discuss the school's fate. Beast suggests, with Xavier gone, maybe it's time to close the school. Bobby objects, pointing out that many students have nowhere else. Before they decide, Angel walks in, seeking sanctuary. Despite Beast's hesitation, Aurora insists the school remains a haven and assigns Warren a room and directs Hank to inform the students the school will continue. Later, Wolverine rushes back, urgently seeking Storm. He's seen Jean with Magneto and fears an imminent attack on Alcatraz. Beast questions Wolverine's sighting of Magneto. Wolverine insists they need to act fast to counter the Brotherhood's threat, despite the government's presence at Alcatraz. Angel overhears, worried for his father's safety at the lab. Beast and Wolverine, suited up, use the mansion's tunnels. Logan believes that if Magneto controls the cure, they're in deep trouble. Hank asks about Magneto's numbers. Logan reveals he's got an army. They join Storm, Iceman, Shadowcat, and Colossus. Of course, their numbers are thin. Wolverine doesn't sugarcoat it. They're down on leaders and outnumbered. Yet, he rallies the team with a reminder of their duty to the legacy of those they've lost, insisting they stand united as X-Men. Bobby, Kitty, and Peter signal their readiness and confirm that they're all in for the fight ahead. Together, they head to the Blackbird, racing for what might be their toughest battle yet. However, the X-Men are struck by the chaos at the bridge, a sight beyond their darkest fears. Storm crashes onto the scene with lightning. The Beast leaps down and lands with his good old primal grace. Iceman and Shadowcat make their entrance, phasing through the ground to dodge impact, then emerge unscathed. Colossus follows. His metal form gleams as he lands. Wolverine claws out, scales down the wall, and commands the humans to find safety. He rallies the X-Men and forms a solid front against the Brotherhood, poised for the fray. Spotting Juggernaut's charge, Beast realizes he's after the boy. Shadowcat, determined, dashes to intercept and phases multiple times through obstacles. Amidst the chaos, Beast and Wolverine unleash their fury, mowing down enemies. Wolverine, bemused, doesn't quite like Beast's diplomatic stance. In the heat of battle, Beast reminds Wolverine the power of action over words before cutting off to engage more foes. After Colossus hurls Wolverine at Magneto, Magneto halts his flight and makes Wolverine skid to a stop at his feet. Magneto taunts Logan, but Beast leaps at Magneto and delivers the cure with an injection, thereby stripping Magneto of his powers. Magneto collapses, defeated. During Jean Grey's telekinetic frenzy, Beast urges everyone to flee the building and leads the charge to safety. Shadowcat, Leech, and Iceman also make their escape. Later, watching TV, Logan sees the president introducing Hank McCoy as the new ambassador to the UN, praising him as a representative for both humans and mutants. Logan quietly cheers on Beast, proud of his friend's achievement. Days of Future Past. In 2015, an angry mob outside his home in upstate New York took Beast's life. However, in the altered timeline of Days of Future Past, Beast wonders about his fate in the future during a conversation with Wolverine. When Wolverine arrives in 1973, he finds Hank at the closed-down school. Despite Hank's request for him to leave, Logan insists on entering, claiming they'll be close in the future, and surprisingly punches Hank. Triggered, Hank transforms into Beast, and a scuffle breaks out until Charles steps in to halt the chaos. After this rather tense meeting with Beast, Logan shares he's from the future, which Charles and Hank doubt. Logan shares detailed memories of Charles's past, including how Charles first experienced his telepathic abilities, convincing Charles he might be truthful. Yet, Charles, who was not using his powers at this point, dismisses Logan. Logan, puzzled by Charles's ability to walk, questions Beast, who reveals he developed a serum. Initially intended to control his mutation, Hank adapted it to heal Charles's spine, which sacrificed Charles's powers to silence the overwhelming telepathy. Convinced by Logan, Charles agrees to help, revealing they'll also need Magneto, locked up under the Pentagon for supposedly plotting against JFK. They recruit Quicksilver, who's fast and eager to join. At the Pentagon, while acting as tourists, Charles and Wolverine slip away as Hank discreetly disables the cameras. Hank plays the tourist role well, but also tampers with the building's security before triggering a fire alarm, which facilitates Magneto's escape. Next, the team heads to Paris to stop Mystique from killing Bolivar Trask, the man behind the Sentinels. Flying them to the peace accords, Hank navigates the jet amidst a tense squabble between Charles and Eric, which nearly crashes the plane until Eric's rage subsides and they safely reach Paris. At the summit, Trask spots Mystique disguised as a general. Eric saves Trask, paralyzes Stryker, but then targets Mystique because he starts to believe that her death could prevent the grim future that mutants were facing. His shot misses as she flees, but he wounds her leg with the bent bullet. In a dramatic confrontation in front of a crowd, Eric almost kills Mystique, but Hank, in his mutated form, intervenes, allowing her to escape. A fight ensues. Eric uses metal sculptures to restrain Beast, but they all scatter as police arrive. Back at the X-Mansion, without Eric, Charles decides to embrace his powers again. With Logan and Hank, Charles uses Cerebro to reach Mystique at an airport, trying to sway her from her path, although unsuccessfully. Discovering she's headed to DC for the Sentinel unveiling, Hank doubts their actions can alter the future and compares time to a river that flows around obstacles. Charles kinda rejects this fatalism though. They fly to DC, where Logan urges Charles to promise to form the X-Men regardless of the outcome. In DC, as Trask reveals the Sentinels to the world, Raven, disguised as an agent, infiltrates an important meeting. Charles telepathically urges her to rethink her actions. Meanwhile, Magneto encases the White House in a stadium and uses Sentinels as guards. Amidst the chaos, Hank questions his fate in the future, to which Wolverine mentions it's not all roses and rainbows, but also says that it could be changed. During a Sentinel attack, Hank disables one but is hurled into car wreckage by another. To escape detection by a pursuing Sentinel, Hank uses the serum to suppress his mutation, effectively becoming invisible to it. Raven, moved by Charles's pleas, decides against killing Trask and gives Hank a warm smile before leaving. The Sentinel's failure to eliminate mutants leads to Trask's imprisonment. It also shifts public opinion on mutants and steers the future towards a more hopeful direction. X-Men Apocalypse. Since 1973, Hank has been using his serum to look human and become a teacher at Xavier's school when it reopened. In 1983, he welcomed Alex Summers and his brother Scott to the school, showing Scott's powers to Professor Xavier. That night, Hank detected an energy from Cairo in his lab, not knowing it was Apocalypse waking up. Jean Grey, a student and psychic, felt this energy, having nightmares that melted her room's walls. Hank and Charles used Cerebro to track the source, discovering Moira McTaggart was in Cairo, heading to Langley to report on the events.
What are you doing?
What Raven would have.
X-Men Dark Phoenix. In 1992, Professor X becomes a presidential advisor, with the X-Men hailed as global heroes. He and Hank spot trouble with the space shuttle Endeavour. The president calls, asking for their help. Xavier sends Beast, Mystique, Quicksilver, Storm, Nightcrawler, Jean Grey, and Cyclops to space in the X-Jet, piloted by Beast. After rescuing the astronauts and returning to Earth, Hank examines Jean and finds her powers are beyond measure, unsure if she's harmed. That night, Mystique suggests to Hank they start a new life away from everything, and kinda criticizes Xavier's direction. direction. Hank declines as he insists that the world still needs the X-Men. Beast runs Cerebro for Xavier to connect with Jean's mind, but the effort knocks Xavier out. As Jean heads off to find her dad, Beast and the X-Men follow her to Red Hook. The confrontation turns violent, and while Beast tries to subdue Jean with a gun, Cyclops and Xavier immobilize him. Mystique tries a peaceful approach but gets fatally injured by Jean's psychic blast. At the X-Mansion, Xavier mourns Mystique. In the kitchen, Beast confronts Xavier, blaming him for Mystique's death, and leaves in the X-Jet to tell Magneto. In New York, Beast sides with Magneto but gets knocked out and detained by the military. On a train to a mutant facility, Xavier and Cyclops persuade Beast to drop his revenge against Jean, thereby honoring Mystique's true wishes.
I'm sorry, gentlemen. Your anger at the inexorable alienation of late 20th century...
Beast's roles across various Marvel animated series. Beast first appeared in the TV scene in the Submariner episode of the Marvel Superheroes, alongside Cyclops, Jean Grey, Angel, and Iceman. His animated journey continued in Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends during a flashback in the origin of Iceman. In X-Men, the animated series, voiced by George Boozer, Beast starts in jail, choosing to stay there to show mutants can follow the law. Freed in Season 2, he rejoins the X-Men. Spider-Man, the animated series, featured Beast in the Mutant Agenda and Mutant's Revenge, where he helps Spider-Man with his mutation issues, entangling with Brand Corporation's anti-mutant schemes. He was voiced again by Boozer. X-Men Evolution introduced Beast as a high school chemistry teacher, voiced by Michael Kopsa. Initially hiding his mutation with a serum, he later embraces his true self, joining the X-Men. In Wolverine and the X-Men, voiced by Fred Tatasciore, Beast shows his loyalty to Xavier's cause, being the first to rejoin Wolverine's reformed X-Men after the Mansion's explosion. The X-Men anime series features Beast as a lead character, voiced by Tatasciore in English and Hideyuki Tanaka in Japanese, further highlighting his enduring appeal in the X-Men saga. That was all in this one. What do you think about this rather deep character? And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.